Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more 3D printed goodness. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of 3D printing terrain. I think it is the most affordable and accessible way to get yourselves tables worth of scenery. The prices of individual plastic kits for terrain usually means that the majority of us are priced out. Not many of us are going to have a full table of Games Workshop plastic kits, or Zone Mortalis tile, or boarding action scenery, or every single kill team set to build all those walls and stuff. It's usually something that's a bit of a pipe dream for us. That's where the sponsor of today's video comes in. Fabricators Lair is now launching their 4th Kickstarter, and they are bringing you another fantastic set of scenery for you guys to download, print, paint, and play on. This stuff is designed to match in with the Games Workshop Gothic scenery and the Games Workshop Mechanicum scenery. So all the walkways and all those kind of silos and all those bits and pieces, these are designed to aesthetically match those bits and pieces. If you already have some of those plastic kits in your collection, you've always wanted to expand and grow that collection, but you didn't want to spend hundreds and hundreds of euros doing that, perhaps this is the perfect Kickstarter for you. In today's video, I'm going to 3D print both one of the Manufactorum style buildings and one of the ruined buildings and get them painted up in a very quick and accessible manner to show you guys how easy it is to get these models on the table and get playing with them. So if that's something that excites you, stick around. I will also break this video in half right in the middle, and I will show you the promotional video that they have posted on the Kickstarter so you can see the full range of awesomeness that they are launching with this Kickstarter. There's literally thousands of items available. The crane is one of my favorites. The raised platforms in the middle of 40k table is another one of my favorite bits of it. So there's definitely more bits and pieces of this Kickstarter that I will be printing, painting, and playing on in the very near future. All right, guys, stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so the files that you get for the Fabricators Lair for their new Kickstarter can of course be printed in PLA or in resin. I decided to go all resin for my particular buildings. I wanted to get the maximum detail to really show off what these things can do. That means I had to load up my new wash and cure station stuff that I got from Uniformation, because they're the only ones that would actually fit some of these large scale prints. These guys can be printed in much smaller scale, pillars and walls separately if you have smaller printers and so on and so forth. I am lucky enough to have access to larger printers, which means I can print off larger parts of the buildings in one go. And look at the absolute stellar detail that you can get from these buildings. What's on the tray here is one complete ruined building, which is kind of like an oxymoron. But I decided to go for a ruined building as I think it suits the 40k aesthetic more than anything else really. Of course, I'm wearing gloves. You do not want to touch raw, uncured resin or unwashed resin with your bare fingers, so be careful. Also, the stuff that's in this, the isopropyl alcohol, is inside the wash machine. You don't particularly want that on your skin either. It has a caustic material, and it's not what you want. So, after I got these particular parts all washed and cleaned up, obviously they're drilled and hollowed to save on resin material, which is really good. A lot of manufacturers don't do that. They just leave them as solid prints, which means you're just wasting more and more material. The fact that these pieces are hollow means you're going to get more and more prints out of your bottle of resin, which means you're going to get more scenery for your book. If that makes more bang for your buck, I guess. Now, like I said, I'm lucky enough to have quite a large collection of scenery already, but I do not think it's good for the people out there who are starting to try and build scenery collections these days with the price that scenery is these days. So I definitely think 3D printing is the way forward. I mean, look at this print. This is one solid piece that I managed to print in one go, which is one of the vats, which of course connects to their Manufactorum style system of buildings. And removing supports was in some parts easy. All the structural parts like these managed to snap off quite easy. The bits that connect to the print bed, they're a little bit trickier. I did have to resort to getting my hands on the clippers, cutting them off and doing a little bit of sanding work to get rid of any of the extra nubs. I would much rather have harder to remove supports if I'm guaranteed they're going to adhere to the build plate better. Failed prints annoy me to no end, and I did not have a single failed print when it comes to printing off all the pieces that I did for these buildings. And I think that's down to kind of overdoing it of supports, which I think is a good thing. So here is one of the buildings, the ruined building in its glory, all pushed together. You can see it's quite a large scale building. And I printed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. For me, on a large scale print, obviously you can print off things. And these are the extra pieces for the Manufactorum side of things. And as you can see, they did once again print off beautifully. The design of them is really nice. The official 40k ones of those silos is a nightmare to put the top part on them. You have to find these tiny little pegs and make sure they fit inside the ring, and then you kind of square them off really nice. The resin ones that are here are designed to literally click right on top of it, so they're really nice. Of course, after all the resin parts have been washed, it is time to cure them. Curing them is another really important stage. This will harden up any of the uncured resin and obviously just finish off the assembly. So after it has gone through the cycle of curing, it is now officially safe to handle them with your bare hands, and you can start the process of assembling them and getting them painted up. After all of that was done, I just had to remove a few extra supports that were filling in some of the details on the silo. There is a video coming up in a few seconds on this particular video where I show off the launch video from their Kickstarter. It is a very good video. It's about 2 minutes long. And we're going to go through some of my favorite details about this particular Kickstarter. Some of the excellent bits that I think take the 40k table to the next level. But I guess as each their own, each person is going to have a different part of the video that excites them, a different part of the Kickstarter that's going to excite them. I mean, me personally, the Manufactorum style buildings that Games Workshop did were never something that I was hugely excited by. I thought making an entire tables worth of them with loads of walkways was great for games like Necromunda or Kill Team and stuff. I thought they were just going to cause more hassle than they're worth for games of 40k. And like I said previously, it does cost a fortune to get an entire table's worth of scenery together. But as you see, it goes together great. All of the stuff assembles. There's pins to hold on the walkways, the guide rails, there's ladders, there's extra bits and pieces. So I did decide to glue them all solid. They do come with these optional pins, so all the buildings can be pinned together and then pulled apart and put together in different ways if you so choose. I always like deciding what my building is going to be, gluing it all together as one solid piece. That's the way when I get to like adding weathering powder, textures later on down the line, it all matches. You don't have to worry about kind of refixing it later on. As you can see, all I'm using is a little bit of super glue to adhere these bits. Because the resin is now cured and solid, it is a lot easier to stick it all together. It only takes a few seconds of contact for it to harden really nice. And there we have our 2 pieces of scenery that we're going to be using for today's video. Printed and assembled and ready for spraying. 2 really nice pieces of scenery, and I think they do look very recognizable from the Games Workshop stuff. This is the Gothic Sector Force of Pavos, which is the Kickstarter we're talking about here today. And as you can see the way those pieces come together, whether you have a small printer or a large printer, you can print them off in different ways. That modular ground system on the bottom right is the thing that grabs my attention the most. We've all seen buildings before. These ones are fantastic. It is going to allow you to construct an entire city's worth of scenery with maybe 2 or 3 bottles of resin. So 3 bottles of resin, probably going to cost you about $100, 90 euro. Considering that, 90 euro for an entire table's worth of scenery, I think is pretty good. I also love the slant on the roof of that middle building there on the right. I think it's fantastic. Cranes are always good. Pipes are another thing. You can get them from Games Workshop, but to make a full system like this that's really going to have an impact on a game, it's just too many of them. I do like the tank system those guys have. Once again, it's going to add a beautiful feature to it. Modular walkways, stairs, fantastic. But the tabletop is the thing that makes me the most excited, and the thing that I will probably put more effort into than anything else that comes in this Kickstarter is, like I said, that modular ground system. It allows you to do things like this. Higher kind of walkways, higher portions of ground, things that are going to break a line of sight in a game of 40k. It's not just a completely flat game and then some buildings spattered around. As you can see here, this will be a 6x4, and all of a sudden you get those raised areas to put buildings or put whatever you want down. I think that's fantastic. And then of course, if you decide to go for a full ground system, they have all the bases you need to print off to base your models to match them, which will really kind of help you with the immersiveness of the whole system. There's just so many different files. It's kind of crazy to see them all spattered like that. And like I said, you can of course print them on an FDM printer, or you can print them on a resin printer. It's totally up to you. Whatever you have access to, you can get great results. and create incredible tables like these. Like I said, the Kickstarter is currently live and has currently already exceeded its goal. So if you feel like getting involved, I will of course leave links in the description below that you can check out for yourself. I think it's a very reasonably priced Kickstarter for the amount of files that you get. And then you can slowly but surely build up an entire table or 2 or 3 if you so choose. So the first thing I did was spray all of these pieces black. I just used Chaos Black spray, gave them a solid coat of that. And then I gave them a dusting of Lead Belcher to get kind of silver texture to some of the areas. I have always felt that scenery should be something that is the background to a game. It should be beautiful, but it should not be bright and vibrant in colors. It should not take away your attention from the miniatures and the armies that are on display. So I'm going to show you guys a very quick and effective way of painting these miniatures. So like I said, sprayed black, sprayed silver, both with spray can. Grabbed an airbrush to add a color to these pieces. So for the Mechanicum style buildings, I decided to add red, which I think is a suitable color. I used an airbrush for this, and I very carefully went around on the larger, flatter panels and added in that red tone all across them. I went for 2 coats to make sure I got a nice smooth consistency across those parts. And with the second coat, I was more selective at the middle of the panels, just to add a little bit of shading and shadow to the edges. It's a very easy step to do. And then with the building itself, the ruined building, I decided to go for a dark green color, more of a militaristic style color. Maybe this thing was part of an Imperial Guard, I don't know, bunker complex or a military fortress which has now fallen. So that military green I think works a treat. And obviously I'm being a little bit more careful here. The flat panels that I want to make green are obviously spread in amongst lots of other details on this thing. If you do a little bit of overspray, it doesn't make a huge difference. It is okay to do that. Like I said, it is scenery, so you don't need to spend as much time and effort on them as you do for miniatures. Like I said, if you use 3 bottles of resin to create a scenery or an entire table, there's quite a lot to get painted. So I think following easy to follow tutorials like this is going to help get that entire table painted in no time. I grabbed a little bit of brass and I airbrushed on all of the Mechanicum style symbols across the buildings. Once again, there was a little bit of overspray. It didn't matter, it was not a big deal. We are trying to get all this scenery painted fast. That is the key thing. Scenery should be painted fast. It should not take you the same amount of time to paint a board's worth of scenery as it does to paint an army. At least I personally feel that way. I'd also like to know your opinions on scenery. Do you believe that scenery should, like I said, be a background thing? When you look across a 6x4 table that has 2 armies on it, the 2 armies should grab the most of your attention and the scenery should just frame those. Or do you guys like to go maximum detail yourself, painting all the little pipes and all the little cables and all the lights be glowing and the buildings are bright and vibrant? I'd love to know if you feel the same way as I do, or if you think I'm a mad loon. The last step, or the second last step I'm going to do is I'm going to add weathering powder to this building now. You may think that I'm crazy thinking how you on the second last step already. It is just silver and green, a bit of brass. I know that, but that's all I want it to be. And then I'm just going to add the weathering powder. So the weathering powder is going to be quite heavy. I'm going to go for a dark, rich brown, just to give the illusion that this building is, like I said, it is old, it is degraded. Maybe it has been abandoned for many years. It is damaged. Obviously, there hasn't been anyone through to repair it or to keep the upkeep of it. And in any kind of heavy war zone, the amount of dust and debris that is going to be thrown up into the air, it's going to land down in and around all the other buildings, is going to be quite a lot. So everything is going to be quite dusty and quite damaged. So the first one I'm going to hit the whole buildings with is with brown. But I am going to go in with a second pigment color. I'm going to go for black. I'm going to paint this across kind of like that pipe work and stuff of things like the Manufactorum building, because I think it suits. This thing is an industrial complex. It's going to be a lot of byproducts from that, which is of course going to cause a lot of blackness. All the pipe work, gantries and stuff where people are going to be stomping around. And when I jump across to the ruined building, I'm going to use a lot of pigment powder and stuff with that along the edges of the building to give the illusion of the kind of damaged or blown up areas which would have been scarred and burnt and stuff like that. So that's going to add the effect of the blackening to that. You can see how cool it looks across that. Such a quick and easy thing to do. Add a little bit of texture. And same on the building itself. Here's where I'm going to go in with the black. And I'm going to aim for, like I said, the damaged areas. It also added a really nice quick and easy shade to the brass bits as well. Helped the skull to really pop. There isn't really any any way you need to think about this. You just need to lash it on. And obviously when the pigments were finished being applied, I hit them all with a Minotaur varnish to hold all of those pigments in place. And then I called these 2 buildings complete and ready to be played on. Okay guys, and there we have it. One of the ruined building pieces is now printed, assembled, painted in a very rough, quick and easily accessible manner on a tabletop and ready for play. And then I've also done one of the Mechanicum pieces. And like I said before, these will blend in beautifully with some of the official Games Workshop ones. Same height, same dimensions, same everything. So if you want to have walkways going between the two, for instance, that's something you can absolutely incorporate into your miniatures. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like the look of these buildings and the Kickstarter, I will of course leave links in the description below, which will take you straight to that Kickstarter, which was launched on the 5th and is already fully funded many times over. So obviously people have a lot of faith in this guy's Kickstarter, it being his 4th one, and everyone so far has been very successful, a lot of happy customers. I know I for one will be printing more of these things. I think the crane will be the next thing I print. I really like that crane. I'm painting it up for myself, so big thumbs up from me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. Ask me any questions you want about the Kickstarter, painting these miniatures, or anything else in the comments below, and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on all future uploads. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.